Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Mondays Down South. I'm wearing my Mets hat. I almost wore my Mets jersey. I was trying not to be too tacky. I had to call Evan last night because I didn't know who to vent to, but I am proud to say the date was December 8th, 2025, when the Mets landed the biggest free agent in MLB history, at least in terms of contract, and in my opinion, the greatest hitter I've ever seen, at least of this generation. Juan Soto is a New York Met. I cannot believe this. I've watched this man cook my team for years with the Nationals, win a World Series with them, go to the Padres, go to the Bronx, and in the craziest of fashions and one of the most epic ways to do it, the Yankees with Juan Soto, we took him from them after we made the NLCS, after they made the World Series. I think it was kind of the perfect storm of everything all coming together. And the contract was $765 million over 15 years. But the thing is, Evan, the more I'm reading about it, I feel like all the initial reports, I'm watching all the videos and everything, are missing the key detail. I don't know that they're missing it, but they're not bringing it in up enough. I get the feeling that that option that exists is where the Mets can exercise it is going to most likely happen because the odds that Soto plays 5 years with us, unless some injury or something happens, which I certainly hope it doesn't, the odds that we don't opt in for that is extremely unlikely because we'll have had too much success and you can't just let him walk at that point, which means we'll probably exercise it and he'll get 4 to 5 million more a year. So the reality is, I think this contract is going to end up being an $805 million contract. So it's actually over 800 million most likely, and I think a lot of people aren't acknowledging that. I want to get your thoughts, Evan. I could rant about this for an hour, but real quick, I want to give a shout out to a couple of Mets YouTubers that I've been watching like nonstop all day, every day. And I apologize to the ones I don't mention off the top of my head, but two in specific, Draftneck Mark, who does the Mets Up podcast as well with his buddy, and my guy Wardy NYM. Actually, one time we're at the Yankees Mets game, Subway Series. I ran into him. You were there. These guys have been like keeping me in the loop all this time. And last night I watched their live streams of when it happened, and it was just so much fun. So I want to thank them. They're kind of inspiring this for me, and I'll kick it over to you, Az, so I can kind of shut up about this.
Yes, sir. Congratulations. I think all of us non-Mets fans and other teams that were involved, just happy to have the answer and let the rest of the offseason roll. It started to seem like it was going to happen last night. I know we spoke a couple times throughout the day, and I think everyone was getting the sense it was going to be yesterday. And sure enough, at about, was it like 10 o'clock? So not too late. I was thinking it might be later, but it seemed like it was trending towards the Yankees there at the end. But I think Cohen came in with the Godfather offer. Like you said, I agree with you that I'm assuming that he would opt out and that you guys would just, match it up to the 55 and make it over $800 million, which is truly insane. From a baseball perspective, I don't know if the on the field impact can possibly live up to that contract, albeit that becomes a smaller and smaller percentage of the cap as the revenues in baseball continue to grow. But obviously for the Mets, it's way beyond what you can do out, on the baseball field. It's a statement to the rest of the industry that, they're no longer second fiddle in New York. If they're a 1A, 1B there with the Yankees, and, that Steve Cohen's here to make a splash. And, it's a, pretty seamless baseball fit, obviously. Paid a pretty penny for it, but it's exciting. I don't think it's the worst thing for the Yankees. I think it was obviously a smart move for the Mets, but I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing for the Yankees, although I know they wanted them back. So, certainly a lot to dive into here with Soto, but those are the initial thoughts.
Yeah, I'll say this. I think the other note that I want to make is, in the circumstance of Steve Cohen, where I don't think he's too worried about losing money on something like this because of the fact that he obviously has a lot of it, and it's a passion project for him, right? This is the team he grew up loving. I think that's why he can justify something like this more. It's like, it's like when he buys artwork or whatever else. I mean, Juan Soto is greater than any art piece you could ever get, but you get my point. Like, I think for him, it's more, we bring him here and just the joy that he himself is going to have every day when he goes to that stadium to watch the game. But beyond that, the number one thing he said when he first bought the Mets was, "I'm doing this for the fans. I almost treat it like charity. Like I just want us to be like competitive and go win." And I think a big part of it also, you know, early last year, this is I wanted to bring this up. Early last year, you, me, Patrick, Bruce, Zach, we're on a group. We're talking about it, and you and Patrick said to me, "There is no way he's coming to the Mets." And you were totally reasonable in saying that because the reality is at the time we didn't look like we had any shot. Like, I mean, sure, we might still have been able to offer the most money, but would he have wanted to sign a 15-year deal with a team that you don't know when they're going to compete again? That's where that magic run in the second half and the NLCS run is so important. Like, it set that bar of like, hey, like you can come here and you clearly have a team that with the GM and the owner are ready to make the right moves to get there. And I think that was probably the what did enough to get him along with the money that we gave him. But I think the one thing I do want to say is, and obviously they're more all these people are more plugged in than I am. So this is just me speaking from my heart and like making assumptions. I think the notion that he was like so strongly favoring the Yankees to go back there and then last minute flip to the Mets because Cohen, changed like up the offer a little bit more. I think some of that might be like Scott Boras doing his job really well. You know what I mean? Because I don't think that if he really felt that strongly that the Yankees he wanted to be at that much more, their offer was over 750 million. Like I believe he would have taken it because I don't know about the whole if they would have increased after 5 years. I don't know about all the contract details there. I believe they just offered him 760 over 16. But I think the money was close enough where he was like, you know what? It was a decision between two teams, and he probably felt good enough about both of them. So I don't like everyone keeps reporting, especially guys like Andy Martino and them who are big Mets guys and Yankees guys, like, oh, the Yankees were gonna win it for days, and like, last minute Steve Cohen took it. I just don't think a human being works like that, right? Like I don't think like for 3 to 4 days you can think, oh, I'm gonna go back to the Yankees and be with Aaron Judge and the team, and then oh, okay, they made like a marginally higher offer, which in the reality is even if it is 30, 40 million more, like at that point, what's the difference? You're making over 750 million. What can you buy with that you can't with the original, right? Like if he really wanted to go to the Yankees that badly, he'd be a Yankee. That's what I believe. I may just be saying that as a Mets fan who wants to believe he truly sees something in the Mets and loves guys like Lindor and Mendoza and Stearns and Cohen. But I'll leave it at that. It took a long time for me to process. I don't even think I fully processed it. I don't think I'm going to. I look forward to that first at bat when he's number 2 in our lineup, taking that lefty swing and hits hopefully a bomb in the first game. But I'm just gonna shut up. I'm just so excited, man. I'm just so beyond elated right now. I never in my life thought I'd see this after 20 years of watching the Mets just disappoint year after year. Dude, 2 years ago, sorry, not 2 years, but the year before Steve Cohen signed, we were excited that we signed a wash Dylan Betances, who, no disrespect to Dylan Betances, the guy was amazing. But just think about where we are now compared to then. I don't know. I'm blown away. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think the offers were definitely comparable enough to where he kind of had the choice. Now the opt out I do think kind of maybe puts it over the top from a money standpoint, but no, I agree with you, and I do think like it's almost less about like the dollars that go into your pocket, but what the money says, right? And the more money, even though it's a small amount that the Mets were offering, but not just the more money, but the fact that Cohen kept matching and kept matching, kept upping it, and then the Yankees had that last opportunity and they said no. Like it's less even about the dollars and cents and more about like it proves who wants him more. And ultimately, as a player and as human beings, like we want to go where we're most wanted, right? And the Mets,
Exactly.
but and that the money says that they are the team that wanted him the most. And to your point, obviously, that huge run this year was crucial to prove that there was a foundation for success. Similar, potentially even better, or at least close to it with the Yankees. So I think all those factors go into it. But I completely agree. It wasn't, it was more than just the money that got this over the finish line for sure. So
I want to get your thoughts on how, and this might play in a little bit into what we're going to talk about later, because I haven't even mentioned it with my hype over Soto and just Juan coming to the Mets. What we're going to talk more about trade projections, and we're going to pull up a simulator Evan has and really try to go through ideas of where we think guys are going to go. We had our free agent episode last time you guys saw us, and luckily, and I guess Evan and I did some decent research. We got quite a bit of those right between the two of us, one or the other. A couple of big ones. We'll talk about those. But before we jump into those, I do want to know what you think, or in your world, what the plan should be. One, let's say for the teams that missed out on them. So I'd say mainly the Yankees, Red Sox, and even the Blue Jays. And then also like, what do you think the Mets need to do on top of that? Just really quickly, it doesn't have to be a full breakdown, but I want to get your thoughts because obviously, like you said, the needle was not going to move on free agency, at least for a lot of big signings until Soto did. Now that he has, everyone kind of has to adjust, right? So I want to get your thoughts there.
Yeah, quickly, Red Sox. I think Teoscar Hernandez is going to be a Red Sox.
I think
That's
so.
my new update. I thought that was a great call by, I believe that was your call on the episode. It seems like the Dodgers and him are a little far away. And I think he's basically said that he wants to go back to the Dodgers, but the other team that he's always been really excited about potentially playing for is the Red Sox. And I agreed with your pick there last week. I think that's a perfect fit. So I think that's going to happen. And that's the pivot for the Red Sox. And then I think the Red Sox will be in the starting pitching market as well. I don't have them getting Fried or Burns. Maybe I'll in our little kind of redraft of the rankings, I'll say where I think those guys are going to go. But I do think Crochet is a very strong, possibility there. Now, granted, that's not really what they're doing with the rest of the money. So, Bregman could definitely go there with his relationship with Cora. So, I don't think the Blue Jays really had a shot, but I feel pretty good about my Santander to the Blue Jays prediction.
Mm.
And then I think they, will focus on extending Vlad as well. And then the Yankees is the big one. I think the core piece, I think for them to get is Christian Walker. I just think that's a perfect ad for them, which I think maybe it was also one of your predictions. So nicely done. Another one I loved from you. And then the starting pitching one, Max Fried is the guy I have going there. I guess I will jump ahead and say where I think he's going to go. That has a lot of buzz right now. It's potentially happening in the next couple of days. I don't necessarily think they need to add starting pitching because they actually have a solid six right now. But if they were going to spend that money, you might as well go to the place that is the most has the most options, I guess, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the outfield, I do like the Bellinger trade. I've liked that for years. I mean, Bellinger's been maybe a little disappointing, but I just think it's a good fit in the Bronx. Dominguez can play center. I think they need to move Judge to right field. I'm very adamant on this. A lot of people are saying Santander. I do not think that makes sense. And I get why people are saying it, but I think now that they're not, I don't want to say burdened because obviously they wanted Soto back, but now that they're not burdened by having someone that can only play the weakest part of the outfield there at Yankee Stadium, I think they really need to prioritize someone with center field like skills. So you basically have two center fielders out there with him, Dominguez. I think Bellinger fits that mold. There's not a lot of free agents that fit that mold, unfortunately. So that's the challenge. But I think they can go to the trade market. Sounds like, and then you have Jazz who can either play second or third. So that gives you an option to go after Bregman, or I saw Tyro Estrada is like a rumor. But they also have another prospect coming up that can play the infield who's kind of similar to Volpe. I think his name's Caleb Durbin. He's a fast kind of guy. So maybe more of a bench player. But so yeah. I think it's, and then the bullpen, they need to fix the bullpen. They need to put a lot of money in the bullpen. So Tanner Scott, they need a few guys out there. So they need a lot. But
yeah, I got a good. I'm going to follow that up with the Yankees because I agree with you. I 100% agree with you that they shouldn't put Judge in center again and then shouldn't sign Santander. But some part of me thinks that because I don't know, they're not a dumb organization, but some part of me thinks that because they lost out on Soto, they're going to be more inclined to just try to add more to the lineup and maybe not worry as much about defense. But one of the biggest issues for them last year, like Game 5 of the World Series, you saw the disastrous inning that they had, and they never really had a great defense to start off with. And a big reason for that was having Soto. But now that Soto's gone, I agree with you. That's what you got to address. I have a great idea for them in the trade segment later, so I'm not bringing it up yet. But I do think the starting situation, though, I agree that they don't necessarily need one. And assuming Rodon can stay healthy this year and be very good, because he's a solid 2 if he can get back to what he was 2 years ago. But I don't think they're going to be able to do enough to make the lineup quite as competitive or as good as it might have been in the playoffs, with obviously having to replace Soto and how well, for example, Giancarlo played in the playoffs. I don't see him doing that throughout the course of the year. So I think if they're going to try to make their way back to World Series, and now that the AL is wide open, they should try to add. It's a situation where they can add to a strength, right? Because imagine if they got a Burns or a Fried, and you had Garrett Cole and those guys. Then all of a sudden, when you run into a team, even if your lineup is maybe marginally worse, your rotation is that much more daunting in my mind, especially in the playoffs. So that's kind of where I see that being kind of smart for them, assuming you project these guys out to be good for the length of the contract or for the majority of the contract. The only concern is no matter what they do with all what we just talked about, in 4 or 5 years, that team is gonna not even 4 or 5. I'd say like 3 to 4 years. That team is gonna be a nightmare because you have Aaron Judge. You're gonna have you're gonna have all these old guys. Giancarlo is still on the contract for a couple more years. You're gonna have two really old pitchers at the top. Rodon's gonna be old, so they have to think about that, which is why I'm thinking of trades down the road, and I'll bring that up later. I agree with you with the Red Sox. I think they'll still try to get one of those frontline guys, but I think they'll miss out because I've heard that their owner, Henry, isn't the biggest fan of long term contracts for pitchers. Like last time he did one was David Price and Chris Sale, and neither of those really worked out that well. So maybe he won't do it. But I agree that they should add another bat in Teoscar. I think he's a perfect fit. The Blue Jays, I think they're going to try to add Santander, but I think that if I was them, I would sell everybody now, right? Because unless you think you're going to replicate the magic you had 2 years ago, which I don't think they will, you're in a situation where you could trade Gosman, you could trade Vlad Guerrero, you could trade Bichette, and you could get you could get a farm system that is so absolutely loaded, especially with what some of the picks and stuff they made recently, and then try to rebuild within the next couple of years and make trades for other guys because I just don't see them competing no matter who they add. And your division is just in general is like on the up and up. And if they go another year and if they're not winning the World Series next year, they're in a situation where Vlad and Bichette both become free agents. What does Gosman have? Has a few years left, but he's getting older. Like there's just so many things that they have to work around. So, and I don't see them having the depth to win this year. That's even if they add, a big bat or whatever it is. So I think they should sell. And last quick note, the Mets aren't done and we can't be done because even with Soto, like there's still quite a bit of holes to fill. So we definitely have a couple more things we need to address or we're not going back to NLCS and we're not competing with the Dodgers. I love Soto. I'm so happy we have him. It's the main piece that we needed, but we have a lot more to do. So there's definitely a lot to do there.
Yeah, the Blue Jays are definitely in a tricky spot. They did so great at the deadline last year that I actually think they might be able to build this back up quicker than you would think. And I just think after the year Vlad had last year, I think trading him was just such a tough sell. I mean, he's just a face of the franchise kind of guy for them. If they do, I would love to see him go to Boston, but play with Devers. But I mean, I would hate that, but like I think that'd be cool for baseball.
No way to make that trade though.
Yeah, no, but and Bichette you just can't trade right now because he had such a bad year. You'd be selling so low. So I think maybe you look at it at the deadline, but yeah, they're in a tricky spot. I don't even know the names of a lot of the young players, but I remember the Orioles playing them at the end of the year, and I was like, they got some nice young players here from this deadline and guys coming up, but they kind of came out of nowhere. So I agree, it's like the division's in a really tough spot, especially if the Red Sox start spending. So we'll have to see, but they have some decent young talent there, and the rotation. They just need their team to play better, which if they still believe in their players, might make sense to run it back. But if you're not a believer in the guys they have on the roster getting back to their form, then yeah. You maybe don't have another option but to sell. But yeah, I guess the question is Alonso. It kind of seems like maybe Pete's not coming back from some of the quotes I heard, Stearns and just general people in the media. So I think that's the big question right now.
I actually think what Stearns said today when I was looking into it, the fact that he said a couple of times we'd love to have Pete back, we'll just have to see how the market goes, makes me think that we're still very strongly considering bringing him back. I think that's like I've watched a lot of Stearns interviews, and the fact that he even mentions him by name multiple times, saying like we'd love to have him back, is like the most you're going to hear from Stearns about his want for a free agent. He's usually very like close knit and doesn't say much. I actually don't think we're out on Pete at all. I think that like we're really going to consider it now. Do I think we're going to overpay for him? No, we might give him a bit of a hometown like sweetener just because Cohen might want him back that badly, but it's going to come down to years. I think if someone like I expect us to want him for 5 years. This is me completely speculating, but I expect us to want him for like 5 years in that 125 to 135 range as a right-handed first baseman, right? If someone's willing to go 6 years and give him, over 150, then I don't think we're going to match that. So I think that's what it's going to come down to.
I think that's my point. Yeah, I think you might get outbid. I don't know by who, but someone.
Might. But the thing is, if we don't, or if it's even close, then we might match. I don't know. I feel like I kind of feel like we need him or a Walker or someone like that. Like, and I think we do. So we might be willing to pony up on him. I'm not out on us with Pete yet. But speaking of power hitting free agents, the Orioles with Tyler O'Neill. You want to comment on that real quick? That was a nice prediction, man. Nicely done.
Yeah, we had a busy Saturday evening. The Orioles dropped the two moves at once. They basically had two like two big offensive needs that were like kind of, one to refill Santander if he's not coming back. So it appears, he's not coming back. I mentioned it last week, but they needed more of someone that's going to kill lefties as opposed to Santander, switch hitter, a little bit better from the left side. So you kind of needed like the opposite profile. But if you look, it's ironically, if you look at their stats, they're like exactly the same, except O'Neill plays less games because he's always injured. So that's obviously the big issue with him. And he's a slightly better defender. So, I think it's a smart kind of savvy pickup. Heston Kjerstad obviously projects for, more at bats this year in right field, but so not quite a platoon. Tyler's obviously more than a platoon player, but the Orioles love their matchups and the mix and match. So, definitely a logical pickup. Like I said, one I predicted. So love that one. And then, pick up another backup catcher, which sneaky Gary Sanchez with some pop, but I got a chuckle out of that one. So
$8 million was unreal, bro.
Yeah, I mean, the trick with the Orioles situation with the catcher is like our top prospect right now is coming up next year, and he's also a catcher. So we couldn't go multi-year deals. So like Kyle Higashioka would have been a great fit, but 2-year deal. Carson Kelly signed with the Cubs. The deal hasn't come out, I don't think, but I'm expecting like he would have been too expensive. So you're like, and even James McCann like kind of wants a multi-year deal, even though he hasn't really been that great. So yeah, 8.5 seems like a lot, but Gary Sanchez is actually like his bat is one because we liked using James McCann to get Adley off of his feet a lot against left-handed pitching, but he just was not hitting well enough. So Gary Sanchez is actually a better defender than McCann, which is hard to believe, but McCann's been that bad defensively. So it actually is a big upgrade for us projecting as someone that can actually DH, well, not DH, he would be catching and Adley would be DHing, but in the lineup, against lefties pretty much every time, and actually be an impact bat if it works out. But
he gives some pop with the people around him for sure. And he seems, like you said, he just seems like a good replacement for McCann for a year until you.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and you kind of have to overpay a little bit. I'm not laughing at the fact that million. I'm laughing at the fact that like the market it's at where Gary Sanchez is getting $8 million to basically catch is great.
Yep. So busy day. We'll see what happens with the pitching staff. I have one good prediction on that end for us, but I don't know. I guess does that take us into like a redraft on our picks from last week, maybe a little bit?
So. I just wanted to say quickly the Dodgers, I feel like, are still playing chess. Like some part of me feels like this isn't some big signing, and obviously my Mets bias is there with him, Conforto having been a Met back in the day. But Michael Conforto at the bottom of that lineup, they're going to know what to do with them, and watch that man hit like 25 home runs this year. It's going to be so.
Yeah. Well, he was good last year. He was hurt for a good amount of year, but it was a good pickup. I keep tracking trade rumors just in case anything happens in this sweet spot. But all right, all right. Any? I'll put to you first if there's any kind of redo picks you want to make here with new information a week later. I have a handful I've mentioned, but
I don't think mine is going to change as much as yours because I always had the Mets getting Soto in ours, which is why I kind of picked the guys I did for the Yankees and the other teams. Kind of thinking out loud, I'm not saying this is going to happen, but from the comments Stearns made, I do think we're actually looking at some of the top two guys, the Burns and the Fried. I don't think it's going to happen, but I just want to say like it's in consideration now. Off the top of my head from the prior one, I'm going to let you go first because a couple of ones that we've already picked have already happened, at least in terms of the top guys. And then in terms of the guys that are left, it seems like a lot of the ones that I picked are still very much in play for their respective teams. So I'll let you go first, and then if I have any like ideas that come off that, I'll jump in.
Yeah, I'm trying to pull up the list just to fresh. I know mine, but so the first one, actually, this isn't a redraft. This is a kind of doubling down, dare I say, but the Roki Sasaki to San Diego buzz. I'm feeling pretty. Schilt was. I mean, I guess it's one thing for the manager to say they're really going to try and get him, as opposed to them actually having increased odds at getting him. But I feel good about that having a decent chance. So going worst to first, I'll stick with. Actually, no, Walker Buehler. I might send Walker Buehler to the Mets. Actually, I'll switch that. Christian Walker, I'm going to send to the Yankees. Sasaki, I mentioned. Teoscar, I mentioned. Manaea, I'll stick with the Mets. Santander, I'm sticking with the Jays. Jack Flaherty, they just signed Cobb, so I don't know about the Cobb move, but Flaherty, I don't have a better idea on, though. So stick with that for now. Alonso, I have the Mets. I'm going to say he doesn't go back to the Mets, but I also don't have another idea on him. Fried, I think, is Yankees. Adames is gone. Good call on that. Snell's gone. Good call on that. Bregman, the Phillies buzz has died down. Red Sox is a really good guess for Bregman. I don't know if I'm going to officially change that, but he's got a few options. And then Houston, obviously re-signing as well. And then Corbin Burns. I think the Giants have really jumped in here on Burns and Fried as both California guys. So I'm going to send Burns to the Giants and, like I mentioned, Fried with the Yankees, but that could be switched as well. Those are
I
my
had
changes.
Snell coming to you guys originally, and then obviously he went to the Dodgers, which makes me think that the market for Burns has changed. I haven't heard a lot of buzz about you guys getting Burns back, which is why I'm not like, I'm sure you're still in the conversation, but I do tend to think that he's more likely to end up at one of the other teams. I think I kind of had a debate between Boston and somebody else from our original. I still kind of feel like Boston could be low key in the conversation, but after hearing what I hear about Henry, I'm a little tentative. He is way more of an enigma to me now than he was earlier. Like he really, like, who knows? The Cubs could swoop it. I have no idea what's going to happen with Burns.
Yeah,
I don't think it's going to be. Some part of me now feels like it's not going to be the Red Sox. I'm torn, man. I'm really torn on that one.
It's a really robust market. Yeah, that's why. I mean, the Orioles are definitely still in there, but just with all the power teams in there, like it's hard to imagine that the Orioles are going to get him. So, so my bonus is I think the Orioles are getting Nathan Eovaldi.
I like that.
And I think that could actually happen soon. I think so. That's I know we didn't pick it last week, but he doesn't have the qualifying offer, shorter term deal. Almost a similar deal to what O'Neill got. So that's my new prediction, which it'll be a good pickup. A little disappointing, but
yeah, that's something that's going to be a little bit similar to kind of like we're in the conversation with Eovaldi as well as Matt. And I think it's kind of comes down to whether we get Manaea or someone else. It'll be fun. There's like 4 guys. I think it's like those 2. Obviously Buehler we talked about, and then there's also like Pivetta, and I'm probably missing like a Flaherty who's maybe a little bit higher on people's lists than some of those guys. And it's just going to be like all those guys are going to be valued, I think, somewhat similarly to some set of teams that need a 2 or a 3. I think that's really what it's going to come down to. And so, yeah, I could see us getting one or the other and you getting one or the other. I know you kind of said Manaea might be a little bit out of the realm of possibility for you guys now based off what he's asking for, maybe.
I think it's more the pick, which isn't a surprise, like, because, giving up the qualifying offer pick, especially with, obviously if Manaea keeps pitching like he did after he made those tweaks, then sure, he's like a 1-2, but, if someone throughout his career hasn't quite been that, so you're giving up a decent sized contract in addition to the draft pick. I think that's a big issue because the issue with the Orioles do have right now is depth of the farm system because of like some trades like the Trevor Rogers trade and some of the other trades they made with the Phillies at the deadline, some more win now moves that maybe didn't go as well as they'd hoped. We still have the top end prospect talent, but they the depth isn't quite there. So, obviously our GM's a scout at heart and really wants to rebuild that. So, the fact that he can potentially gain 2 extra draft picks this offseason with Burns and Santander, I think he's going to try and take advantage of. Unfortunately, Cowser didn't get the Rookie of the Year. Otherwise, he would have gotten a 3rd draft pick. So I think he really wants to rebuild those draft picks, to rebuild the farm, and then just settle for the slightly next tier down guys like Eovaldi and O'Neill, like we mentioned.
One last note, Alex Bregman. I had him going to the Astros. I still think that could very much be a possibility, but now I'm really feeling like the Yankees might consider going pretty hard for him. Add him to the infield, especially if they keep Judge in center and don't make a big acquisition, at least in free agency, because they need other hitters who aren't just going to like strike out every other at bat. That's why I don't think someone like Santander or like Pete would be the best fit for them, even though I think they'll probably think about getting Santander because it's just going to add to the problem of guys who hit dingers and then strike out, right? Like Bregman's a good like middle ground where he's going to give you a consistent at bat and fight for counts and get on base. So I could see them going for that, and they could use it.
Yeah, agreed.
If you don't have anything else, we jump into trades.
Let's do it.
Okay, I got a quick one for you to start. Right, I know Crochet is going to be a big one. I know everything else. I want to talk about the other White Sox. I want to see. So you're going to pull it up, so I'm going to let you pull that up as I talk about this. So Evan has a kind of a trade simulator where we can try to work out some packages. But the first one I want to explore is Luis Robert to the Yankees. I want to see if we can try to come up with something there. Yankees don't have a lot of prospects, but Robert's Robert. Robert. I don't know which one to go with, but I'm gonna say Robert because I like that more and it's more unique. Um, his value isn't as high as it was 2 years ago. So for me, I want to think about that one purely off the basis that he can play center for them and you can move Judge to right and he gives you pop and when he's at his best he hits for a decent average as well. He would be a perfect fit for the Yankees. I don't know what your thoughts are there.
Yeah, and for those that are familiar with the site, baseballtradevalues.com, you do have to pay for the service, but I think it's like $25 a year. So I think I did it at the deadline when I wanted the Orioles to get Tarek Skubal. So I succumbed to pay the $2 a month or whatever it is. But it's a fun site. It basically values all the major league base, players on your major league roster as well as all the prospects into a dollar figure. So you can basically just line up the values and come up with fun trades. They have a good Twitter, so after real trades happen as well, they kind of give their assessment. The values, they're pretty good, but with how quickly these things fluctuate, they don't always keep up with it as much. But so it's not gospel by any means, but it's a fun tool to play with. But I don't think the White Sox will or should trade Robert. I do the same thing, but this offseason, just with how bad of a year he had last year. Now the problem is, do you think that he will have a better year anytime playing for the White Sox with how bad they are? Maybe not. So maybe you just have to bite the bullet. I was listening to, I think it was Dan O'Dowd on MLB Network tonight, said that they just need to do it because he's never going to play well in Chicago, and you can't blame him. And I think, the Yankees would be great. Like we said, they need an athletic center fielder. They only have his value at like 13.2 on here, which is hardly anything. The problem is they're not going to trade him at the current value. They're only going to trade him if he gets
more than that. Yeah.
So you're probably looking at I don't know who's a comparable player, but like if I pulled up, Kyle Tucker is more valuable, but that was another name out there that we might get to. So Kyle Tucker's has 32.
Yeah, I'd say so maybe more of your 25-ish range.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you look at, they got Spencer Jones at around 20. I don't know if they would deal Spencer Jones for Robert, but it seems like they're open to dealing him because if they add a longer term piece, he kind of gets iced out. So, again, I don't know if it'd be for Robert, but someone to consider. I think I've heard Chase Hampton's name out there, but a bunch of these other young guys that are on the big league roster that you could combine to get it done. But I think they would have to part with something pretty big just to entice the White Sox. And George Lombard, maybe a younger prospect. But
what's Oswaldo right now?
Peraza?
No, Cabrera.
Oh, they got him at 5. Yeah. I think he's more
guys they could throw in that some guys that could play right now. They don't have to be super young, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, Ben Rice,
I think he's a perfect fit for them. And my question is there anyone that they can actually trade to entice them for him, right? Because he's obviously their farm system is pretty depleted after the Soto trade and prior trade. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking it would have to be Spencer Jones in terms of someone that's actually close to the big leagues, right? Because I think that's what the White Sox. What's Robert got? He's got 2 years.
He's got 2 years.
I gotta pull up all these sites, but for 2 years,
around $20 million a year for 2 years.
I mean, he probably will be a star player the second he leaves Chicago. So
I'm saying, especially in a good lineup, hitting in front of Aaron Judge.
You got club options first. So you can have him for 3 at 20 after this year. Yes, that's actually 3. I mean, Spencer Jones, yeah. If it's just Spencer Jones and like a lottery ticket, yeah. I mean, George Lombard's really young, so I don't know if that's the kind of thing the White Sox are looking for, but. I mean, Dominguez in left, Robert in center, Judge in right for the next 3 years is and potentially beyond is
creates a much better outfield defensively too. I think it just feels like such a good fit to me,
All right, so we jump to the one while we're on this topic, there were some rumors today that the Astros will start listening on their big dogs.
No way,
I don't know if because they're in a really tough payroll situation right now. So, and you have Bregman, obviously, that they're looking to retain. You have Tucker and then Framber Valdez. Um, if they don't get Bregman back, obviously maybe they have enough for both of those guys. But man, if the Yankees can take a swing using, let's pull up Tucker. I mean, I don't know if they would do this twice, right? Do the Soto move for 1 year, you lose him, and then you do the same thing with Tucker. But Tucker would be like just so much more perfect of a fit, from a defensive perspective. And Soto never strikes out, so it's kind of a similar profile there. But if they could pull that off, similar to what they did with Soto, and then just find a way to extend him, man, send Tucker to the Yankees.
You can only do it if you can guarantee an extension. They can't run the risk of what just happened with him again.
Obviously, that's Spencer Jones for sure. And then
they probably have to include the pitcher,
Lombard, Hampton.
And you're giving up, and to be fair, they don't have a lot left, so they're going to have to give up all of that with potentially no guarantee that he'd resign. They probably have to do some of that backdoor, like talk to the agent, see that if he'd be willing to sign an extension now.
Yeah, that's the thing. These days, you're never going to be able to get that. They're just like, guys have got, once they get this close to free agency, they're going to go.
Yeah, and now
like they've earned that right.
So it changes the game for everyone. Like Vlad Guerrero was apparently open to an extension. You really think he's going to sign an extension now after he saw Soto get $800 million? Obviously, he's not going to get close to that, but he now knows he can get way more in free agency than from one team. And there's a lot of guys who missed out on Soto that might be willing to bid on these guys. So I don't know if they'll do it.
Yep, but that's definitely man, that would be scary. That would be scary. Any other? What's another? Throw a name out there.
I was even thinking about trading big guys. It must have just very recently been.
So maybe we can jump to Framber here.
I want to know about Framber. Let's do it.
I've been saying for years that I thought that Astros would have to trade Framber before he hits free agency, just with this window and the payroll and all that kind of stuff. And if I'm Mike, now that it seems like he's available, if I'm Mike Elias, I am pushing this so hard for the Orioles. Framber has always been so perfect to the Orioles. I think Mike was probably in the Astros front office when they signed him as an international free agent. And if I'm not mistaken, the Orioles almost acquired Framber way back before he got really big. I forget. I don't even know who that could have been. Maybe it was even back in when we were selling off Machado and those guys. But I think he was one of the names the Orioles tried to get and the Astros said no. So there's absolutely no doubt the Orioles love Framber. And if I'm Elias, this is what I'm doing. All right. Where's Framber? 1 year left of Framber.
Yeah.
I'm sending, because the one thing that could entice the Astros is they need another young outfielder to build around. They have Tucker, Jake Myers, Chas McCormick, I think is their outfield. Those last two guys, McCormick was awful last year. He's more of a fourth outfielder. Myers is fine, as a good defensive center fielder, but they need especially another left-handed hitting guy. And the one guy the Orioles have that's expendable is Heston Kjerstad. I'm sending Kjerstad to the Astros for Framber. I'm also taking on, because the Astros are desperately trying to swap or get rid of Ryan Presley, which is another need for the Orioles that I think would be a great fit. And that would actually bump up the value because of his contract. They're just trying to dump the money so they can pay these other guys. So I'm doing Framber and Presley for Kjerstad, and then I'll throw in, I can throw in a Chase McDermott, who's a big league ready pitching prospect that they could plug into their rotation this year. Or even, I don't think they would want Trevor Rogers, but even if they wanted someone to just plug in and immediately replace him, he has some value. I'll throw another one of those guys. If you want me to throw in another just couple depth prospects, X Wagner, whoever, you can have whoever you want. But if I'm Mike Elias, I'm making this phone call and I'm doing something like this.
And I think this is probably the right way to put it up too, because anytime you see these trade values, it's always going to be more than what you think. So I think this would probably entice them. And I think, honestly, if I was the Astros, I'd probably make that trade if I'm planning on trading Valdez. I would do for Kjerstad alone, just because not that they would, but I would. Yeah.
Yeah, it's perfect, because the one thing about Kjerstad is he's maybe a little limited defensively, but they have that short portion left, so he'd be plenty fine to play that left field there. I think it's perfect. I mocked it last offseason with Colton Cowser. But now Colton Cowser's just turned into a
He's
core
too
piece
good.
for us and almost
Yeah.
won Rookie of the Year. So it's a little too good. I think Kobe Mayo is probably too good for just 1 year of Fromber, and then Samuel Basayo is definitely too good, but they need outfield anyway. So I honestly think it's perfect that they're open to it, and then obviously at that point you're hoping to hammer an extension with Valdez and have Kyle Bradish, Fromber, Grayson Rodriguez, Kramer, and Povich as a young rotation that you have for the next several years. What else you got? Any other names you're thinking about? Should
I
we
mean, we got to talk about it.
go to
the big guy. Yeah.
Crochet?
Yeah. Let's do it.
Where are these White Sox?
There's only gonna be like 2 people with value on this team, so it won't be that hard to sort.
Yeah, just because. Oh, it's because I'm on the third page. I think they got him around 53. So
He's gonna be an
for
expensive
2 years
one.
of Crochet. So let's start with the. You want to start with the Red Sox?
Let's do the Red Sox. That's actually where I think he's most likely gonna go. So.
Yeah. So sending him to the Red Sox. The couple of kind of the one name I heard recently that the Red Sox actually might be willing to part with is Marcelo Meyer.
I just heard that they're actually starting to like consider him a potential like trade asset. Yeah.
Yep. So look at this, bang, 1-for-1. I mean, I'm sure you got to throw in some flyers and whatnot, but this could be a pretty seamless swap here.
I mean, it's crazy how loaded their farm system is.
It's really
actually
good.
ridiculous.
Because I mean, the other guy, Wilyer Abreu was another name that was floated earlier. Obviously, he already had a great rookie year. What'd I do? He was another. What's going on? He's at 29, so you got to throw in, another. What do they got? Like Kyle Teal, so maybe a little much.
I mean, you're going to have to be a little much because Crochet is going to be one of those guys that multiple teams are going to throw back at him. So you have to beat him out.
Yeah. Who else they got down here? I don't know these guys as much, but something like that. Could work if the White Sox want someone that's big league ready. Where's Casas as well?
Do you think they'll trade Casas?
They were talking about it. I don't really know why.
Wasn't he like a big part of them being good last year?
Yeah, well, then you could trade Casas to get Crochet, slide Devers to first, and sign Bregman kind of thing.
Bregman, that's true.
Could be you do Casas. Yeah.
If you get Crochet, no matter who they give up, they better extend them because that's if you give up Meyer, like you're gonna be kicking yourself forever if you only get 1 or 2 years of Crochet out, right? So that's kind of the key in all this.
Castillo's actually doesn't have much value either because of the money.
But he can definitely be a legit top of the rotation guy for at least another 2 years. So it's kind of like a perfect fit for a team who can handle the money.
If again a little biased here, but the more Mariners and Orioles have always been ideal trade partners.
Yeah.
So I think
his value's at 2.
Oh, is he on here?
Yeah. Go scroll up. I just saw him. Did you change the?
Here it is. Yeah, I mean,
he's older and he's going to cost something, but I think he would be a great acquisition for a team like you guys or us who needs immediate starting pitching help and can handle the money.
So the one you look at here with the Mariners and the Orioles is Ryan Mountcastle. Where's he at?
Oh, okay.
Because they've always wanted Mountcastle. So you do. What can the Mariners? I mean, honestly, even just a straight swap, you probably got to throw off the money. But could they give us a reliever or something to even this out?
Just Mountcastle because you're going to be picking up Castillo's contract.
Yeah, I would not. I would not do that. I think the Orioles would not do that. Is my point.
Oh, you don't think so?
No, because of the contract. I think you would need to sweeten it somehow. But
first, right?
Yeah, and then you just slide Kobe Mayo at first. The more interesting idea, though, is where is Bryce Miller?
You're getting a little wild with it.
Well, so the Mariners kind of should really look to trade one of these guys.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying. So some kind of, I haven't really been able to find like the package that works really well. But like Bryce Miller to the Orioles or even Gilbert, but Gilbert, Gilbert, you could do
We're gonna have to give up the moon for Gilbert, man.
you could do Mayo, and then you know
Um,
Mayo and
would you want to make a trade where you include Mayo?
I mean, I could. Gilbert would probably be, probably
Be worth
would consider it for him.
it.
Because I think him and Kerstad, you can definitely trade one. Obviously, Mayo is way more upside, and I think we need maybe more of a right-handed hitter. But now we got, I mean, O'Neill's maybe just a short-term thing. So I think you could definitely trade one. It just depends on what it's looking like. But I don't know if, I mean, I think the Mariners are way more inclined to trade Bryce Miller anyway.
I also think they're more
Or
inclined to
Wu.
trade Castillo because they're trying to get rid of the money.
Yeah. I mean, Castillo is definitely a top priority to trade, but so yeah, I can never really figure out the right kind of package for one of those guys because I don't know, Mayo for Miller.
Like as you show me this, I can't understand how they weren't a playoff team last year. Their pitching is so good, bro.
Yeah, they just truly cannot hit. They have absolutely no hit.
I guess Rodriguez having had his dry spell of hitting last year was probably a big part of that. But I mean, that's just mind boggling.
Yep. Yeah, I guess the other name I saw today who probably has no value on here is Jesus Luzardo.
I really think that he's going to get dealt from everything.
Oh, wow. They've got him at 26 still? I don't know about that. Because isn't he coming off an injury or?
Even with that, and 26 feels a little high, but I still think he's going to have value.
Yeah, I mean, he's only got 2 years left.
The value is going to come off him 2 years ago, though. I mean, before he.
Yeah, I mean, he only pitched 66 innings and wasn't effective.
I know they have
Devin Williams.
Need to consider it.
He's very available. Again, I think the usual kind of, maybe like the Phillies or something like that.
I hope it's us.
Yeah, you guys certainly with the Stearns connection. Who else? The Guardians.
He's obviously an amazing reliever, but he only has 1 year left, so I don't think you'd have to give up a ton either.
Nah, not like a big prospect.
Yeah.
Guardians, I believe, are shopping Josh Naylor, so could be interesting.
There you
go. Who else we got out there?
I think those are a lot of the big guys. I mean, some of the other ones are just way more speculative. Like, are we going to trade someone kind of like places?
Twins with Correa seems unlikely. But
why do you think it's unlikely?
I think I listened to their GM yesterday. It didn't seem like they were really looking too closely.
Man, if someone's willing to do it, they should make that trade happen. With his injury history, like unless they think they're going to compete the next couple of years, it's a good time to do it. I bet the Yankees.
I was going to say the Yankees for that one would be good. I'm just scrolling through the teams, seeing if there's anyone.
We don't get Pete back and we go trade for Correa.
That'd be ironic.
We're not going to do it.
The Phillies with Bohm, actually. Bohm is definitely going to get traded, I think.
Although I don't really know what. I mean, he still has a ton of value according to these things.
Yeah, but he's a good player. He just kind of fallen out of favor, but like the Mariners, something like that.
Yeah, I don't know.
How
many years does he have left?
Probably a lot.
Yeah, okay, maybe.
Probably like 3. I think he just kind of fell out of favor there, but yeah, I guess those are
where the value comes from.
Should we mess around with Vlad Guerrero to the Red Sox or something?
Just one last note for you. What did you think of what this is going to mean? Like, obviously, we're years away from this, but what this is going to mean for Gunnar Henderson? Because he's the only other guy I can think about outside of Vlad, but Vlad's not a position of strength like shortstop that is going to come out when they're like, what? Gunnar's going to be like 25, 26 as well, right?
Yeah, so, I think, what is he now? He's 22 now, and he's got 4 more years. I canceled the screen share. Let's see. I still got the Fangraphs open. Yeah, I mean, I heard him mention yesterday as kind of maybe the next guy that'll be in that similar ilk. So, yeah, he's going to get paid quite a bit. He's got, 4 years, 2029, he'll be like 26.
Present day, he would easily get over 500 million. So with inflation in 4 years, oh my gosh. That's just crazy to think about. It just goes to show how much you guys have acquired studs, man. Oh, man. When Adley's the year prior to that?
Yeah, Adley's 1 year ahead of him. I read today that they're looking at an Adley extension, although it was like a screenshot on Twitter that I did not say who said it or anything at all, and I haven't seen it reported anywhere, so I don't know if it was true, but
It's a lot of sense for you guys to do that
he
now,
would be
though.
the logical one. I mean, actually I don't think he's not Boris either, unless he might have switched, but like make him the highest paid catcher in baseball. Like, you could probably come up with something that works for him.
The contracts are going to start being handed out pretty frequently this week, so we'll have a lot of fun updates, and obviously can have some reactions in the coming weeks from us about that. But great episode, man. Juan Soto's a Met. I got to keep saying that as many times as I can. I'll probably say that for the next 15 years, and I look forward to that if I'm fortunate enough. So we'll see about that. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Hopefully these start to roll. Thanks to everyone that commented and liked the last video too. The first baseball video did surprisingly well. Usually the baseball content doesn't do quite as hot, but maybe that's starting to change here with the offseason. So thanks to those that watched and viewed and comment. And hopefully you enjoy this one as well. So without further ado, that was Mondays Down South.